The modern world feels like a relentless storm. You wake up, and before your feet have even touched the floor, the noise begins. The pings of notifications, the weight of expectations, the subtle nagging anxiety that you are falling behind. You move through your days with a sense of frantic urgency, chasing goals that seem to shift the moment you get close to them. You feel the weight of other people's opinions like a physical burden on your shoulders, and you find yourself reacting, constantly reacting, to circumstances you have no power to change. You are exhausted, not just by your work, but by the relentless effort of trying to keep your head above water in an environment that seems designed to pull you under. You have likely tried the self-help advice that floods the internet, the morning routines, the productivity hacks, the superficial affirmations, only to find that while they provide a momentary spark of motivation, they burn out the second life throws a real challenge your way. The truth is, you are trying to solve a structural problem with temporary adjustments. You are attempting to master your life using the same tools that are causing your stress. What if I told you that the secret to lasting success, unshakable focus, and profound peace of mind was never meant to be found in the modern world? What if the most effective strategies for navigating the complexities of the 21st century were perfected 2,000 years ago, written in the journals of emperors, the letters of statesmen, and the lectures of exiled teachers? These are not mere opinions or speculative theories. These are the core principles of Stoic philosophy. A rigorous, uncompromising framework designed to turn ordinary men and women into masters of their own minds. History's greatest figures, men who held the power of life and death, and women who navigated the most treacherous political landscapes in human history, did not rely on luck or external validation. They relied on a blueprint that rendered them immune to the volatility of their times. Today, we are going to dismantle the way you perceive your life and rebuild it from the foundation up. We are not talking about mindset shifts or gentle positive thinking. We are talking about the cold, hard science of emotional autonomy and the strategic deployment of your will. This is the Stoic blueprint for lasting success, and it begins with understanding where your power truly resides. The foundational principle of this blueprint, the pivot point upon which your entire life must turn, is the dichotomy of control. It is a simple concept, yet it is profoundly difficult to master because it requires a total realignment of your daily focus. Most of your suffering, most of your anxiety, and most of your wasted energy stem from a fundamental category error. You are expending massive amounts of emotional capital trying to control things that are entirely outside of your jurisdiction. You worry about the economy, about the opinions of colleagues, about the outcome of long-term projects, about whether you are perceived as successful, or about the actions of people who have no interest in your well-being. By focusing on these external variables, you make yourself a slave to them. If the economy fails, you are anxious. If a colleague insults you, you are wounded. If a project hits a snag, you are depressed. You have effectively outsourced your happiness and your stability to forces you cannot command. The Stoic, however, draws a line in the sand. On one side of the line are the things that are exclusively within your control, your own thoughts, your own intentions, your own values, and the judgments you make about the world around you. On the other side of the line are the indifferents, everything else. This includes your wealth, your reputation, the weather, the traffic, the past, the future, and the actions of others. The Stoic does not ignore these things, but they categorize them as things that, while they may have some value, do not have the power to define the quality of their soul or the integrity of their character. When you stop trying to force the external world to conform to your desires and instead focus your entire being on the excellence of your own actions, you experience a shift that feels like liberation. You stop being a spectator to your own life and become the architect of your own character. Success, in this context, is not measured by the accumulation of wealth or the applause of the crowd. Success is measured by how well you have exercised your faculty of reason in the present moment. When you accept that you cannot control the wind, you stop wasting energy screaming at the clouds and start focusing on the skill with which you steer your own ship. But understanding this is only the beginning. The second pillar of this blueprint requires a radical departure from the modern obsession with visibility and external validation. In an age where every thought, every meal, and every minor achievement is documented for public consumption, the ancient Stoics practiced a different art, the art of strategic silence. There is an immense, often overlooked power in disappearing. When you constantly broadcast your plans, your intentions, and your opinions, you are leaking energy. You are inviting feedback, inviting competition, and inviting the judgment of people who do not understand your vision. The world is full of critics who thrive on the volatility of others. If they see you striving, they will seek to pull you down. If they see you succeeding, they will seek to find the flaws in your method. By keeping your plans quiet, by working in the shadows until your results are undeniable, you protect the sanctity of your focus. Silence is not an act of cowardice, it is a tactical advantage. When you are silent, you are observing. You are listening to the patterns of the world rather than imposing your own noise upon it. You are conserving the mental bandwidth that others waste on vanity, performance, and social signaling. Most people cannot handle the silence of their own company because they are terrified of what they might find in the stillness, namely, the realization that they are currently aimless. The person who has mastered the art of strategic silence does not need to declare their success because their work speaks with a gravity that words cannot replicate. When you refuse to be provoked by criticism, when you refuse to engage in the petty squabbles of the day, you maintain a level of composure that is deeply intimidating to those who lack self-control. They will look at your indifference to their praise and their blame and realize that they have no leverage over you. You become a fortress, and a fortress is not easily conquered. This brings us to the necessity of radical self-discipline. We are living in an era of unprecedented convenience. We have immediate access to entertainment, to food, to instant gratification, and to constant stimulation. This environment is an assassin of greatness. It caters to the impulsive, biological desires that kept our ancestors alive, but which now serve to keep us mediocre. True success requires the ability to transcend these impulses. It requires the ability to endure discomfort for the sake of a long-term vision. The Stoic does not view discipline as a punishment, but as the primary tool of freedom. If you cannot deny yourself a minor pleasure, you are not free. You are a servant to your biology. If you cannot force yourself to work when you are tired, you are not free. You are a servant to your moods. Consider the difference between a person who reacts to their feelings and a person who acts in spite of them. When you feel a surge of anger, a temptation to quit, or an urge to seek comfort, you have the opportunity to pause. That pause is the space where your humanity resides. The person without discipline impulsively acts on the emotion, thereby letting the emotion dictate the trajectory of their life. The disciplined person experiences the emotion, observes it, and chooses the action that aligns with their highest values. This is not about suppressing your nature. It is about refining it. It is about delaying gratification with the full knowledge that the sacrifice today creates the compound interest of tomorrow. You must train your mind to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. You must learn to walk into the fire, not because you want to burn, but because you know that the flame is the only thing capable of refining the gold of your character. Discipline is the bridge between your intentions and your reality, and if that bridge is weak, your ambitions will never reach the other side. Furthermore, we must address the concept of immunity to criticism, which is perhaps the most difficult skill for the modern individual to cultivate. We are evolutionarily hardwired to seek the approval of the tribe. In the past, social rejection meant death. Today it means a bruised ego on a social media platform. However, the result is the same. We edit our personalities, we soften our stances, and we pursue paths that are socially acceptable rather than personally profound. You are living a life of compromise because you are terrified of being disliked. But ask yourself this: whose judgment are you actually afraid of? Most people are not thinking about you at all. They are preoccupied with their own anxieties, their own desires, and their own failures. Those who are thinking about you and criticizing you are often doing so as a projection of their own dissatisfaction. When you hold your own character as the sole judge of your worth, you essentially disarm the entire world. Think of the Stoic as someone who carries their own internal standard. If you know that you have acted with integrity, with courage, and with wisdom, what does the opinion of a stranger matter? If someone insults you, they are merely expressing their own perception, which is limited and biased. Why should you be wounded by the flawed perception of another? By becoming indifferent to both praise and blame, you reclaim the territory of your self-esteem. You become like a rock in the middle of a crashing ocean. The waves come and go. They splash against you with fury. They may even erode a little bit of your surface, but the rock itself remains unmoved. This is the ultimate form of power. When you no longer need the world to validate you, you become dangerous. Not in a violent sense, but in the sense that you are no longer manageable. You are no longer subject to the social engineering that keeps most people in a state of perpetual compliance. Finally, we must talk about the transformation of obstacles. Modern culture teaches us that adversity is a failure, that if you hit a wall, you have done something wrong. The Stoic teaches the exact opposite. Obstacles are not interruptions to your journey. They are the journey. They are the raw material of your growth. When you encounter a setback, do not ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask instead, "What does this situation demand of me, and how can I use it to become stronger?" This is the core of amor fati, a love of fate. It is not just the passive acceptance of what happens, it is the active embracement of it. If you face a financial loss, that is an opportunity to practice frugality and creative problem-solving. If you face a betrayal, that is an opportunity to practice forgiveness and refine your judgment of character. If you face a health crisis, that is an opportunity to practice resilience and to find gratitude in the simple act of breathing. Every single negative event you have ever experienced contained within it the seeds of a future advantage. If you avoid all struggle, you remain a novice. If you embrace the struggle, you become a master. The obstacle that stands in your way is not an impediment to the path. It becomes the path itself. By reframing your challenges in this way, you remove the sting from adversity. You stop being a victim of circumstance and start being a student of experience. You realize that there is no situation so dire, no defeat so total, that it cannot be converted into fuel for your eventual triumph. This is the Stoic Blueprint. Control what you can, ignore what you cannot, remain disciplined in your actions, be silent in your planning, fear no criticism, and love the very obstacles that others fear. This is how you reclaim your life. This is how you build a success that cannot be taken away from you, because it is not based on what you have, but on who you are, the strength you have built thus far. This internal architecture of resilience is the prerequisite for the final stage of the Stoic Blueprint, the cultivation of an immovable sense of purpose that transcends your own immediate existence. Many people pursue success as a hollow goal, a destination to be reached, a pile of money to be counted, or a title to be flaunted. Yet, the history of those who have attained these things is littered with the wreckage of midlife crises and profound existential emptiness. They reach the mountaintop, only to realize that the mountain was never the point. The Stoic understands that purpose is not found in the acquisition of things, but in the alignment of your daily output with the greater good. This is the integration or individual will with the nature of the world itself. It is the move from the defensive posture of protecting your peace to the offensive posture of deploying your excellence for a meaningful end. Consider the role of service. A man who acts only for himself is constantly vulnerable. If his selfish plans fail, he is shattered. But a man who sees himself as a functional part of the whole, as a limb of the social body, cannot be easily broken. When you orient your labor, your creativity, and your persistence toward the benefit of others, your motivation shifts from fragile ego-driven desire to an inexhaustible duty-driven resolve. This is not about self-sacrifice in the sense of martyrdom. It is about self-expansion. When your work serves a purpose larger than your own comfort, the obstacles that used to stop you become mere logistics. You do not quit when you are tired, because you are not working for yourself. You do not despair when you are criticized, because you are not seeking to feed your pride. You are performing a function, like the sun rising or the seasons changing. This alignment provides a source of energy that is not reliant on the volatile highs of external validation or the low ebbs of temporary failure. It is steady, reliable, and perpetually renewed. To truly cement this into your life, you must master the art of the daily review. This is the Stoic practice of the evening audit, a ritual that separates the wise from the mediocre. At the end of every day, when the noise has finally subsided and you are left with nothing but your own thoughts, you must hold yourself to account. You do not do this to shame yourself or to dwell in regret. You do this with the clinical detachment of a scientist reviewing data. Ask yourself, where did I lose my composure today? When did I let the opinions of others sway my judgment? Where did I succumb to comfort when the situation called for discipline? And conversely, where did I stand firm? Where did I exercise wisdom? Where did I act in accordance with my principles? By conducting this audit, you prevent the accumulation of unconscious habits. You ensure that you are not drifting through life on autopilot, but are instead steering your ship with conscious intention. Most people live their entire lives without ever once pausing to examine the structure of their own character. They repeat the same mistakes for decades, wondering why their circumstances never change. By reviewing your actions, you turn your life into a laboratory, allowing you to iterate, to refine, and to grow with every passing 24 hours. You must also develop the capacity for what the ancients called premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. In our modern culture, we are taught to only focus on the positive, to visualize success, and to ignore the possibility of failure. This is dangerous infantile thinking. The Stoic knows that the only way to be truly invincible is to have already walked through the fire in your mind. You should regularly contemplate the worst-case scenarios: the loss of your reputation, the loss of your assets, the onset of illness, or the betrayal of those you trust. Do not do this to become pessimistic. Do this to become armored. When you have already mentally accepted the possibility of these events, they lose their power to shock you. When you have already visualized your response to a catastrophe, you do not panic when the reality arrives. You simply execute the plan you have already laid out. This removes the element of fear from your life. Fear is simply the tax you pay on your lack of preparation. If you are prepared for the worst, you are free to pursue the best with a clear head and a steady hand. As you begin to implement these strategies, you will notice something peculiar. You will become less like the people around you. You will become quieter when they are loud. You will be calm when they are reactive. You will be disciplined when they are indulgent. And there will be moments when this feels lonely. You will feel the pull of your old life, the comfort of venting your frustrations, the ease of seeking cheap validation, the desire to be normal. You must recognize this pull for what it is, the desperate, dying gasp of your ego. The ego loves being a victim, it loves being a participant in the social drama, and it will fight to keep you in that state. When you feel that discomfort, that itch to return to your old reactive ways, recognize it as the friction of change. It is the feeling of your old self being stripped away. Do not retreat. Lean into the discomfort. The moment you decide to live by these principles is the moment you become a stranger to the masses, but you also become, for the first time, a friend to yourself. Living this philosophy is not a destination. You do not reach a point where you are finished and can sit back and rest. Stoicism is a practice. It is a daily, hourly, moment-by-moment commitment to the excellence of your own faculty of reason. There will be days when you fail. There will be moments where you lose your temper, where you act out of fear, where you waste your time on things that do not matter. That is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are human. The Stoic does not demand perfection. The Stoic demands persistence. If you stumble, you acknowledge the stumble, you extract the lesson, and you return to the path immediately. You do not need to wait for a new year, a new week, or a new environment. You can begin the practice of the dichotomy of control right now, in this very second. You can choose to detach from the anxiety of the future. You can choose to discard the weight of the past. And you can focus your entire sovereign will on the only thing that truly belongs to you, the quality of your intention in this present moment. Remember that you are not working toward a standard set by anyone else. You are working toward the standard of your own potential, the blueprint we have discussed, the focus on what you control, the strategy of silence, the ironclad discipline, the immunity to the outside world, the love of the obstacle, and the commitment to a higher purpose. There's not a set of constraints. These are the tools that will strip away everything that is not you, leaving only the raw, powerful, and unshakable core of your character. Most people will never experience this level of freedom because they are too afraid of the cost. They are too afraid to let go of their masks, to let go of their need for approval, and to step into the lonely, quiet, and powerful arena of self-mastery. But you are not most people. You have seen the alternative. You have felt the exhaustion of the modern struggle. The path is open before you. The tools are in your hands. The decision to stop being a casualty of your circumstances and to become the commander of your own soul is yours alone to make. The world will continue to be volatile. The noise will continue to grow. The challenges will continue to arise with unrelenting persistence. But you will be different. You will move through these challenges not with the frantic desperation of the victim, but with the measured, steady grace of the master. You will be the calm in the center of the storm, not because the storm has stopped, but because you have finally built a structure that the storm cannot touch. This is the Stoic blueprint for lasting success, and it is the only way to live a life that is truly, deeply, and undeniably your own. Go forward, not with the desire to convince the world of your value, but with the quiet, unshakable knowledge that your value is already secure, entirely held within the reach of your own mind. That is where success begins, and that is where, if you remain disciplined, it will always live. Turn your focus inward, hold your standards high, and never apologize for the strength it takes to keep your own counsel in a world that is constantly screaming for your attention. Your time, your energy, and your character are the only true currency you possess. Spend them wisely.